Hello, I'm gonna do the nonfiction on Booktube tag. This tag was originally started by Olive, as you might guess, as like 95% of all nonfiction content on Booktube was started by Olive. So I thought I would just hop in the fun. So shortly, here are my answers. Trying to be better at looking at the camera. Hi guys. Hi guys. All right. The first question is, how much nonfiction do you read? And this can vary a lot depending on where I am mentally in my reading mood. Like, if things are stressful at work and stuff like that, I definitely cut down on my nonfiction. But at my happiest, I'm doing about maybe 50% nonfiction in a month. So that's like 3 or 4 nonfiction books in a given month. Question 2 is, what kind of nonfiction videos do you make or do you want to make on Booktube? The answer to this question is that I honestly feel like I haven't been here very long. Like, it's been almost 3 months now, I guess, but yeah, I'd like to make a lot more sort of like specialized content, more than just the tags and the wrap-ups and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna try to put together some recommendation videos on like where to start with like essay collections and like different specific topics in nonfiction. If you have a specific topic you're interested in, please let me know and I'll look into it for sure. So most of the bookish content I've made so far has been for Nonfiction November specifically, which has been a lot of fun, but it has really inspired me to like, you know, make more nonfiction content in my normal monthly content, I guess. Prompt number 3 is, what's your favorite subgenre of nonfiction? And if you've been here a second, you know the answer to this is definitely the essay collection, which I think is maybe more unusual. I don't know. I feel like I don't see a lot of essay collection content here, I guess. I'm definitely interested in nonfiction that does a lot of history or cultural criticism. I've been realizing recently I read a lot of like science and bioethics stuff in general, which is also a topic that I'm really interested in. So yeah, but mostly essay collections. It's good for my sort of like here and there brain, you know. Question 4 is, do you have a favorite nonfiction book? And this is like impossible for me, so I'm sorry. I can't. There are no favorites. I love so many nonfiction books. I will say that the nonfiction books that got me into nonfiction in the first place were Oliver Sacks. His books, he does a lot of like neurology case studies and stuff like that. So that got me really into nonfiction reading as a middle school student. And then last year, 2019, I somehow had like an amazing nonfiction reading year. I had like 4 or 5 5-star nonfiction books, so that was wonderful. So some favorites from last year would be Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino. Gia Tolentino is a writer for The New Yorker, and she writes a lot about like modern society. She's just one of these writers that really synthesizes a lot of ideas, both culturally and societally and historically and personally, into these like intricate essays. They're just perfect. I feel like it's like her essays are very hard to describe because they defy categorization in general. But I highly recommend this essay collection if you need a place to start, or if you haven't read any Gia Tolentino. You can also find her writing online. So the other book from last year that I read this in 2019 and then I read it again in 2020 is How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. And I would say that this title is very misleading, and that is not a self-help book. This book is more one-third art criticism, 1/3 anti-capitalist manifesto, and 1/3 nature writing. So it's definitely not what's on the tin, and I think that that's why some people have been a little bit disappointed by this book, but it is really amazing. It made me think very differently about a lot of our modern conundrums in general, so I highly recommend How to Do Nothing. Question 5 is, what do you think keeps people from reading nonfiction? And I think honestly, nonfiction suffers from the like, I should read problem more than other genres. Like, more than any other genre, people will pick up like a fat history of time and be like, oh, I should read this to be informed about time and stuff. Like, I don't subscribe to that at all. I feel like if you like mysteries and you are interested in nonfiction in general, you should pick up true crime, you know? And like, if you like really like character-driven narrative stories, you should start with memoir. There's no reason for you to go for the fattest, like most academic nonfiction book that you can get your hands on. Don't make yourself suffer unnecessarily for a prestige thing or like I should be reading this. Like that's not going to get you anywhere. For me to you. There you go. Question 6 is, why do you like nonfiction? And I think I like nonfiction for a lot of reasons. A lot of it comes down to sort of the fact stranger than fiction. I don't know if that's the right saying or if that's a saying at all. But just the idea that a novelist couldn't do what's happening in 2020 and get away with it. Because everybody would be like, that's too on the nose. That's too much. And there's just like so many situations in real life where things are crazier than you could ever suspect. Prompt 7 is, what's a nonfiction book you've read because of Booktube? And I have bought a nonfiction book because of Booktube, and that is Hood Feminism. I saw this on a number of Booktube channels. It's very rare for an essay collection to be recommended in general, and you know how I feel about those, so I was like, okay, yes please. This is actually a really big deal for me because I really don't like buying hardback books. I really just don't like reading books in this format, so I really need to read it before it's just already out in paperback. Then I'm like, why did I buy the big hardback book when I could have just bought the paperback? So that's a winter goal for me, for sure. Number 8 is, what's the best nonfiction book that you've read lately? Either of these guys from, what's that year? Either of these guys from 2019 could definitely count. I did go into my Goodreads and try to find a book from 2020 that I liked as much, and honestly, I don't think there is one. The only 5-star nonfiction read I have for 2020 so far is Thick by Tressie McMillan Cotton. I did really enjoy that one, but weirdly, I have like very little memory of reading it. So I don't know if I can count it as a 5-star if I'm like, I know vaguely what it's about, but I can't point to any essay in particular in there that I like really loved or really affected me. And I don't think that it's the fault of the essay collection. I think I read it in June and life was really bad then and I was not getting much sleep. So yeah, I guess that's my answer. The next prompt is, what are some of your nonfiction reading goals? And honestly, I would really like to read longer nonfiction books. I'm not a huge fan of super fat books in general, but especially nonfiction, I have a hard time getting through, even with the best intentions and even on topics that I find really interesting. So that's definitely something I'm going to be focusing on next year. I have a huge number of 500 plus page nonfiction books that I've been meaning to get to, but I just keep putting off because I know my goldfish attention span is not gonna work out. So that's the goal. And the last prompt is, what's your advice for incorporating more nonfiction into your reading diet? And I think that this is sort of similar to the previous prompt. How come more people don't read nonfiction? Like, I think you just have to make it work for you. If you read your books in audiobook form, read your nonfiction in audiobook form. Don't force yourself to read nonfiction books that you already know you're gonna hate. Like, just gain some self-knowledge. I know we all have things on our shelves that are like very aspirational reads, and it's like, someday I'm gonna get to that. Someday I'm gonna read all of Montaigne's essays. But here I am, knowing myself and knowing that truly that is not actually gonna happen. So it just sits there. And I don't even bother thinking about it anymore because I'm like, nah man, not gonna happen. So be kind to yourself. That's my advice for most reading problems. Just be kinder to yourself. And then the bonus thing that I didn't read until right now is recommend some nonfiction books. And I have so many nonfiction books that I could recommend. I'm sort of like thrown for a loop here. There we go. Okay, but quickly, other than the two that I've been recommending this whole time, read these guys, but other ones that you could read real fast. Lives of a Cell. This is by Lewis Thomas. He's a biologist, but he writes beautifully about science for a lay audience. It's very short. It's just little essays. They're very poetic. So if that interests you, you should give this a read. Cool. And then I have, maybe this isn't for right now, but And the Band Plays On is a really good book about the AIDS epidemic. It made me think very differently about public health and disease management and pandemic management, and I have a lot of feelings about this book. I think I might do a specialized video for medicine or like bioethics or like that sort of topic recommendations, because I have read a number of them in general, but I do recommend this one. Okay. And last but not least, we have All Art is Propaganda by George Orwell. And this is definitely one of those essay collections that if you're just a sucker for like really beautiful language, this is it. When I say beautiful language, this is not flowery. It's just like very beautifully put together logical arguments, if that makes sense. Which I find very compelling. For these essays, you'll like read a paragraph and then go back and reread it because you're like, how did he get there so smoothly? Words fail me. He's an amazing writer. I haven't even read any of his fiction before, but I think his essays might be better, but maybe that's just me. Cool. So with all that being said, that's my nonfiction book tag. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know what your favorite nonfiction books are. Let me know what your favorite nonfiction book topics are. And I'll see you with another video soon. Bye.